Meeting to order. It is 10 o'clock, January the 27th, 2021. Angelica, please, would you call roll and see if we got a quorum, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Mr. Rick
you.
Stroud, presiding officer.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Schrader.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas Olmixon.
Yes.
Mr. James Beasley. I see.
Yes.
Mr. Martin Pessink
Yes.
and Mr. Justin Adcock.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask the board members to mute your mic. Do we have any new members? I did not see anything come through. Okay. We'll just move on. Give a couple minutes here, look over the last meeting minutes, and then we'll ask for a motion to approve those. Are we ready? Are we good? Is there a motion to approve the previous minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Angelica, would you,
Mr. Rick Stroud, presiding officer.
yes.
Mr. Mark Schrader.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas Olmixon.
Yes.
Mr. James Beasley.
Yes.
Mr. Martin Pessink
Yes.
and Mr. Justin Adcock.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Into this. Okay, my understanding, we have no public comment at this time.
Correct.
Okay, so let's just move on to staff reports, if that is fine with everybody. I'd like to call on Miss Lisa Hodak, please.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. I'm Lisa Hodak, licensing manager. I think we're changing around the format a little bit, so I'm going to start with the statistics. And I have presented you with all of fiscal year 20 and then fiscal year 2021 from September to December. Right now, our total population for Auctioneer is just over 2,200. And our associates are right at 69. Our online renewals are continuing to be in the 90% range, which is good because it allows the renewals to be processed quickly because we don't have to touch the paperwork. So those are all done electronically, and that's always best for everyone when people renew online. Does anyone have any questions about our numbers? Okay, we will move on. And Angelica is going to help me here by sharing her screen, and she's going to go to our website, and I'm going to touch on the emergency licenses. So thank you, Angelica. There we go. As you can see on our first page, the emergency license status is right there, and that's our first page. And if you can click on that, please. And this gives you all the information regarding the emergency licenses, and I'm just going to touch on it a little bit, and if you have any questions, of course, you can ask me anything that you need to. The Texas Commission of TDLR passed an emergency rule to allow our licensees to continue working with a valid license as TDLR navigates workflow changes brought on by COVID-19. This affects licensees with a renewable license whose licenses expire between August 1st and January 31st. These licensees are considered to hold an emergency license, which is valid up to 120 days after their license expiration date. So we're not actually issuing a license or doing anything with the licensee's expiration dates. We are merely allowing anyone that can renew their license and that needs to renew their license, we're giving them additional time. And so it's called an emergency license because we need time to process. And instead of the licensees waiting for us to process the license, they are now considered to have an emergency license. Does anyone have any questions about the emergency licensing?
I have a question. Now, my understanding is that they have to go ahead and apply. It just allows you guys to process their license, their application.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, thank
And
you.
the auctioneer industry, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, most of y'all renew online anyway. And so when that happens, there is no paperwork that goes into the office. So it's basically not even touched by us. It's all electronic. And so that's always a quick way to renew.
Right.
But if for whatever reason someone needs to send in a paper renewal notice, then it may take additional time. And so that's where the emergency license would apply to them. It
Okay.
kind of
Paper.
extends their expiration date, if you will.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lisa.
And that pretty much concludes my report. Like I said, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you again, Angelica, for sharing your screen.
Anyone have any questions? All righty. We'll move on to customer service. Ms. Jacqueline Rush.
Hi, good morning, board members.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here today. I have a few personnel updates for you. We have, since the last time that we've spoken with you, we've promoted 2 of our CSRs to CSR 4 positions, which means that they will be working on more complex issues for you all, responding to emails and investigating anything that kind of goes off track and getting those things taken care of. Since that time, since December 1st, actually, of 2020, we've hired 6 new CSRs to help answer phone calls. And we've hired several bilingual people in that group, including Spanish speakers, Vietnamese speakers, and a Chinese Mandarin speaker. Since March of 2020, our entire staff continues to work from home. The statistics that you have before you are going to be for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. It'll show a breakdown of the number of calls and emails that we've received each month. If you have any questions on those, please let me know. The calls tend to be about initial application instructions, renewal application instructions. We do assist with credit card payments for renewals. Folks contact to arrange to get letters of verification on their license, clarification on laws and rules, and also to check on license status. And if you have any questions on our personnel updates or statistics, just let me know.
Anybody have any questions?
I have one. How long do you expect to continue working from home?
We're not really sure. We went home in mid-March and overnight started taking calls and emails. We don't have a specific date for returning to the office for our particular division.
And have you seen any productivity changes?
We have. They've actually been really positive. Our software for the phone software allows us to see in the moment what everybody is doing, how long they're on phone calls. That's something that we measure really closely. We're able to measure how many emails are being done per day and who's doing them. Our management group meets every Wednesday to go over productivity of our staff. So we go over each staff member to measure productivity. We've been, in a strange way, more connected by being able to reach out to people virtually. And so overall, we're seeing a really good performance from our folks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Rush.
You're very welcome.
I have a question, and I think you guys do a great job, but I do get phone calls from folks throughout the state that say that they can't get a hold of anybody or whatever the case may be. What would be a good short answer for them when they call me?
Yeah, so it really depends on the situation. I think if they are calling customer service with something that we can assist them with, since September of just giving you like fiscal year update, the whole time
Right.
have been on average, 6 or 7 minutes in the mornings, and in the evenings, maybe just a couple minutes. So our turnaround time in terms of us being able to answer a phone call or answer an email has actually been pretty good. I think after holidays, we tend to get really, that's when we tend to see our hold times go up, our turnaround time on emails, but it takes us a couple, 2-3 days to recover, to be honest. But overall, we are measuring, how long our people stay on the phone so they can get to the next person, and coach so that they can be as efficient as possible on the phone calls. Now, if you are calling us with a question where we have to refer to another division, we do coordinate callbacks from other divisions as well. I know that probably wasn't the shortest answer, but right now I would say if you do get a call and somebody is not finding or getting the assistance they need, please reach out to our amazing advisory board staff and have them contact customer service, and we'll be happy to look into it for them.
Okay, thank you. What would be a better time during the day to call? Would be in the afternoon? Is that what I heard?
So our call center opens at 7 a.m.
Yep.
A really good time to call tends to be before 11 a.m.
Okay,
and after 3 p.m. That lunch hour gets really busy for us sometimes.
sure.
So that's a really good time. Also contacting us through email. On the contact section of our website, we have some web forms that go to our division. One of the things that we've done to try to improve turnaround time is last February, we programmed our email system to recognize when an attachment is coming in. So if your auctioneers, if your community attaches something to our email, that's going to go straight to the Codex team so that we're not a bottleneck. So we're constantly kind of trying to look at ways to reduce people's wait times.
Okay, thanks. That helps. That's something I can put out to the folks and they call me to maybe help them a little bit, help you guys out. Some folks are very impatient.
Yeah, understandably so. It's their license, so we understand.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Any questions? I guess we'll move on to enforcement. Mr. Aaron Heath, please.
Hi, my name is Aaron Heath, and I'm a prosecutor with the Enforcement Division, and I'm here to give the enforcement report. First, we're going to start with some updates. In November, prosecutor Ken Sharp retired after 7 years with TDLR and 13 total years working for the state of Texas. Ken was very active in the department's Veterans Association, where he was both a co-founder of the organization and its first commander. In December, prosecutor Michael Shirk, retired after 8 years with TDLR and nearly 2 decades working for the state. You may remember he was the prosecutor who presented the enforcement report in your October meeting. Recently, we've had 3 attorneys, Amanda Barrera, Arusa Nizami, and Natalie Olvera, get promoted to Attorney 3 positions. They were previously Attorney 2s. And you may see Natalie in the future. She's the other prosecutor assigned to this advisory board. And then this year we have Art Arevalo was hired to become the investigations manager, and he's previously worked with the Austin Police Department, the Travis County Sheriff's Office, and the Texas State University Police Department. Next, we're going to get on to some of the statistics. In the October meeting that you had, you covered the fiscal year 2020, and so this is really just going to cover the first 3 months of fiscal year 2021. So it's a very small sample size here, but we have 5 cases opened, 2 cases closed. The average time to close was 283 days. We haven't had any resolved within 6 months or any that have resulted in disciplinary action yet. And we currently have 18 cases pending at the end of November 2020. And as you can see from the pie chart below, all of the complaints so far for fiscal year 2021 have been consumer complaints, which is different than the TDLR statistics to the right. And because we haven't had, we've only had 2 cases closed this fiscal year, we haven't had any agreed or default orders or commission orders. So we don't have any orders or penalties to discuss below. And then as far as the cases that have been closed, they were open for flagrant misrepresentation or false promises and did not give another their money. And then the rest is the fiscal year 2020 statistics, which were covered in the October meeting. But that's the end of my report. Do you have any questions?
I do not. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Heath?
Yeah, this is Martin. I have a couple, if that's okay.
Sure.
I had asked staff members this via an email during the break between our meetings, but I wanted to confirm these complaints that you log and the statistics you show is only licensed auctioneers. Is that correct?
No, we get complaints on unlicensed activity as well. So those complaints would be reflected in these statistics.
Okay. And that was my question earlier when I'd asked staff that, and I was told that you didn't keep statistics. If somebody called in to complain on a online only auctioneer that was not licensed to the state of Texas, but you're telling me that those numbers are reflected in these?
We don't keep that specific number as far as the statistics that are reflected here, but as far as it was a case opened for unlicensed activity and it likely got closed because there wasn't a violation. So that would be reflected in the case numbers that are in here. But as far as another statistic field for those kinds of violations, we don't keep that kind of running number.
Okay. Does TDLR have any way to enforce any actions against these individuals that are not licensed?
If they perform unlicensed activity that requires them to be licensed, then we can take against them.
Okay, let me clarify. The loophole is in there for online only auctioneers. You don't have to have a license in the state of Texas.
Right.
Most of the complaints for behavior and stuff like that that I hear are in regard to those companies and those individuals. But my understanding, if somebody makes a complaint with TDLR and it's one of these unlicensed auctioneers that's doing online only, you can't enforce any rules against them. Is that correct?
That's correct, because we don't have jurisdiction over that type of activity. That would be more of a civil or criminal, potentially. It depends on what activity specifically is occurring, but as far as TDLR is concerned, we don't have jurisdiction over that type of activity.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking those questions is so we'll know where to go with the legislature to try and address some of this if we have an opportunity.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
I have a question. So if they're unlicensed auctioneers and they do not give the funds to their customers, does that come out of the recovery fund if it's filed against them? Unlicensed auctioneers.
An unlicensed auctioneer, are we talking about an unlicensed auctioneer who is performing activities that we do regulate?
Yes, and by the rules and regs, they've got 2 weeks, I think, to make sure that they give restitution to their clients.
Okay, so for unlicensed activity, no, we can't go through the auctioneer recovery fund because
Good.
you have to be a licensed auctioneer. So
Okay,
they would,
okay, that's good
yes.
news. That's kind of what I was hoping for.
Mhm.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
No, no problem.
Any other questions for Mr. Heath? All right, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We'll call on Rebecca for education and examinations.
Good morning, Chairman, Advisory Board members. My name is Rebecca Armas. I'm with the Education and Examination Division. I'm just going to provide you with a brief summary this morning on some of our statistics. As you see there, we have first quarter statistics for 2021 for our examination. Of course, you're going to see a lower volume because, again, the PSI examination sites are not operating at full capacity. They are currently anywhere between 25 and 75% at capacity. We've got some additional sites that we're utilizing through our vendor, that they've got some third-party sites. So we're trying to get everybody tested as quickly as possible. On that second page, you're just going to see some of our course approvals that we've gone through. Again, for first quarter, we've got a few going up, and we had quite a few for our first quarter, and as of December, we haven't had any, but that doesn't mean that the work's not being done in the office. Just at the time that the statistics were taken, we didn't have any information at the time. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Any questions for Rebecca? Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
All right, we'll call on Russ, Mr. Russ for Regulatory Program Management Division. Please, sir.
Good morning. I'm Russ Tolley in the RPM division. I'm giving a report today. There have been no personnel changes since the last advisory board meeting. Latasha Poland and I continue to be the program specialists among many different programs. We also work with the auctioneers, and we work under the supervision of Stuart Stenard. Outreach efforts, which normally Latasha and I take care of, have been greatly curtailed during the coronavirus outbreak. After the pandemic, we're ready and open for opportunities for public outreach, conventions, conferences, anything related to the auctioneer program. Just contact us and let us know that those events are available. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, any questions for Russ? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Executive Office, Mr. Gonzalez, David.
Good morning, presiding officer, board members. It is David Gonzalez, the Deputy Executive Director of Licensing Services, and I'll be providing the executive report today. I'll start off with our COVID-19 update, which you've heard a little bit from our staff as they go through their reports. I will tell you that the pandemic has challenged our resolve to get our work done and the creativity that we've had to come up with to accomplish our work. We previously shared that we had tried to be proactive in our attempts to prioritize our staff's health and safety. We initiated a work from home initiative where wherever it was possible for staff to accomplish their jobs from home, that they would do so. Not every job is actually conducive to work from home. So even though we still have the work from home initiatives in place, we have mailroom that has to come in and do their work because the mail comes in hard copy. So financial services, some of our licensing staff, not all their work is digital. Not all of them had laptops. We've worked hard to make adjustments and issue laptops where we can and provide our staff with more flexibility in working remotely. But we've had some challenges along the way. The reality is some of our staff have actually contracted COVID. We've had to go through the protocols and mind you, we issue PPE. We have them sign in online with the wellness check before they come into the office. All the social distancing and mask wearing required of them while they're in the office. But even with those protocols in place, people's personal lives, public lives, the interaction happens. we have to take those precautions. We've shut down the mailroom a few times because we had to be cautious. We had to sanitize the office, and we learned from those experiences. In order to get our work done, we decided we need to change the way we did business. So we learned from those lessons. We actually separated staff even more than we had already done for social distancing, put on separate floors so that if there was one unit that got that someone had come down with COVID, we'd still have another working unit. We had rotations of staff coming in, some working from home, some working from the office to try to, again, keep those distances. So we've had to be really creative in getting our work done, but still a challenge, still working through those things. I will tell you that with the legislative session having begun, the executive director, Brian Francis, he wanted us to be ledge ready, if you will. So we're in a ledge ready status. Earlier, Jacqueline was telling you that our customer service staff, they're working from home and accomplishing a lot of work. They're actually showing really great numbers. And we're getting that a lot from our staff that have that flexibility. But we have to fill the needs of the legislators, and executive office wanted to make sure that we were there on site if necessary. So we actually have a rotation going with our executive office. Either the deputy executive directors or our executive director is showing up in a rotation every week at the office as long as the legislation's in session. We have our Office of Strategic Communications, our general counsel, all these key people that might be called on at a moment's notice. If we have to give testimony, if they have questions and they want to meet in person, we want to stand ready. So we're actually showing up to the office, even though right now I'm working from home and doing our work. We want to make sure that we're as ready as possible to take on any work or issues that come up. So we've got that ledge ready status going on. Again, we've increased the number of laptops we give to staff, tried to ensure our continuity. So if one unit gets taken down, we're still continuing our work. But it's been a real challenge. Hopefully, with the numbers I'm seeing from our customer service and our licensing numbers, the fact that auctioneers are taking advantage of our online services, hopefully not a lot of them are finding busy lines or having difficulty with their application where they're having to take advantage of the emergency license. But we're 2021. We were hoping we would be done with COVID and pandemic, but we're still in it and we're still learning lessons. That's all I have to report on the COVID-19. Is there any questions related to those efforts? I know y'all had some questions about productivity for customer service, but if there's any related or observations, we're open to input.
Anybody have any questions for David on this, on COVID-19? Alrighty.
All right, so with your permission, presiding officer, I'm going to go to legislative first, give you a legislative update, and then I'll go straight into sunset because I think it segues a little bit better that way.
Okay.
As I conveyed, we're in ledge ready status. The 87th session started Tuesday, January 12th, and things have been moving kind of briskly. Our agency tracks bills, and we've been doing this for years, that affect our agency. And we hope to keep our commission members, advisory board members apprised of what could be affecting our agency with bill status and tracking. We post a lot of this information on our website and try to keep everybody apprised of where we're at. We are actually not expecting a majority of bills to move. You know, they've got a lot on their mind. They've got a lot of new protocols in place to get their work done. So despite the fact that we're called on to provide feedback and perform fiscal impact analysis on a lot of these bills, we're not expecting a lot to come to us. With that said, we try to learn and master the bills as they're filed. So we're not waiting until it moves into committee. We're not waiting for it to be on the floor of the legislature. As soon as something comes in that could affect our agency, even though it could be amended and there could be changes, we've got our staff tracking it. Brian has impressed upon us the importance of reviewing, doing a deep dive on these bills to make sure we understand it, because at any point, a legislator could call to us, a committee could call to us to provide fiscal impact analysis or provide the feedback. And as you know, we're not for or against any bill. We're just expected to provide just the facts, be that resource, provide them the information they need to know so that they can make decisions on these bills. And whatever they pass is what we have to implement and enact. So that's where we're going with the session, tracking bills. We've got quite a few going on, and we hope to keep everybody apprised. Speaker of the House is Dade Phelan. He's taken over and done his business to get the chamber to adopt their rules. Actually, each chamber adopts their own rules for operations during COVID. We try to keep apprised of those things. It's been interesting to watch those members with wearing the mask, conducting their business, and quite frankly, if they want us to meet in person, even though we may have a little bit of reservations, we'll do whatever's necessary. That's why our Ledge Ready status has been enacted. If there is a testing requirement in order for us to attend in person for COVID-19, we'll be doing that, whatever it takes, whether we do our business virtually or in person, we're going to accommodate the legislature. We do expect, probably because of the other circumstances going on, that there'll be a smaller number of bills filed. The comptroller's biennial estimate came out, and the deficit was $1 billion, which is a lot of money. But it wasn't $5 billion, which is what they originally estimated. So things are actually looking more promising than what was expected. Still, we think that very conservative estimate is going to keep a lot of bills from being filed, maybe not a lot of action being taken. We'll see, though. We'll see. We're not always the best prognosticators on this stuff because it's not up to us. On October 29th, I'm sorry, on January 29th, we will be providing our exceptional items request. So at the end of this week, we've got our exceptional items. I think we did a presentation for that earlier. We've got a few items that we've considered because of the budget report. We're maybe retooling some of those, but expect to move forward with that at the end of this week. And that's stuff that you can see online as well. If you've been tracking our sunset review, and that's what this will I'll use as a segue into sunset, I expect that you've got some concerns about what Sunset has adopted as a recommendation. And pretty, for the Auctioneers program, pretty significant news. Some of our programs had a recommendation to be done away with, to not be licensed anymore, and they didn't adopt those recommendations. But for Auctioneers, they actually took that recommendation and adopted it. So it's going to be part of our sunset bill. Now, there's a lot to go through. It still has to go through each of the House and the Senate. There has to be committees held. There's still opportunities to provide input. We expect the TDLR sunset bill is going to be pretty popular. If there's not a lot of bills filed, a lot of people may try to amend or add on to our bill. And so y'all can obviously make y'all's feelings known to the legislature on these things. We will be called upon as a resource witness, no doubt, as these things progress. But again, can't be for or against the bill. It's simply there as a resource. I compare it to Dragnet when I'm talking to staff. It's just the facts, the information that we have, and questions like what you asked, Mr. Pissink, I think are going to be valid to present during the session, because there's things going on outside of our regulatory authority that could have an effect on people's perceptions of the Auctioneers program and what's going on regarding unlicensed activity, licensed activity in our authority. But no doubt the numbers and the regulatory authority we have now probably influenced the Sunset's recommendation, take it where they have, and for the Sunset Commission to adopt that recommendation. I will, I'm going to just touch on a few of the other issues that are listed in our sunset, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. We have been recommended for continuance for another 12 years. That's a big deal for us because we really engage with the sunset process. They really rolled up their sleeves, got into all of our business and how we do our business. And so for them to have findings that basically identify that, yeah, there's room for improvement. We all know it. There's things that we can do better, but to recommend that we be continue for 12 years, kind of a relief for us. They also, during that sunset, decided that they may not require us to come back for a follow-up sunset, because we were actually scheduled to have 2 in a row because we had some medical programs come over that were not included. We were going to have to do 2 in a row. Recommendation has been made to perhaps extend that date, because most of those programs came over as a result of another sunset for another agency. A few other programs that were also included in deregulation. There was also the proposal to combine barbering and cosmetology, not deregulating, but combining it together. Eliminating barber and cosmetology instructor license, that would be a dereg on that particular license. Wig-related licenses also adopted to eliminate that particular license. And barber poles, if y'all are interested, if y'all go to y'all's barbers, there could be some changes with those programs. Under the driver training programs, also proposal to eliminate unnecessary, burdensome, and unfair regulations. So a change in statute was adopted as part of the sunset recommendations to separate drug and alcohol driving awareness course and associated licenses, eliminate and separate specialized driving safety courses and associated licenses. So Auctioneers is not the only one that's going to be affected by the sunset recommendations. We've got a lot to track, and we've got a whole bunch of our staff. Mr. Francis calls upon staff from different divisions to be prepared to make sure that we're ready to attend any of the committee meetings, because he can't be at all of them. In fact, he's been grooming the deputy executive directors and other staff, general counsel staff, Office of Strategic Communication staff, to be able to respond to the questions and associated issues that may come up with each of these programs. I won't belabor this too much more, just a few more management actions that were revolved around us reporting our numbers and how we reported our numbers, and more accuracy to be included. And let's see if there's anything else. There was a proposal to transfer the regulation of UAPRs, used automotive parts recyclers, to DMV. They did not adopt that particular action. Again, whatever influence from the public, those comment periods may have affected that. And I think that's it. There's 7 issues. You can actually go read the report on the Sunset Reviews report. Obviously, the most significant one for you is under issue number 2, where they propose to eliminate the Auctioneers program. And I'm available to answer any questions if you have any.
Well, I have a question. So if this all goes through and they pull a license or not, that program goes away, what happens to this advisory board? Does anybody know? Is that too early to ask, or am I out of context here right at the moment?
So I expect if the statute goes away and deregulation, the advisory board would be dissolved. As we work through the legislative session, we will do our best to keep you apprised of where we're at. But until we actually see the bill, there's a lot of different ways they could go. They could deregulate, but still have other kind of recommendations on how the industry could be affected. But yes, until we see the bill, sir, it's a little bit early to find out what would happen of an advisory board. There could be some other lesser requirement, not a registration or a license requirement per se, but maybe some other report or oversight that could be necessary, just depending on where the bills go.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Fair enough. Any other
Hi,
questions?
David, I've got a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
First, I'd like to plug the Texas Legislature online. It's a great resource for tracking bills, which is for any citizens who may want to know how to get there. It's www.capitol.texas.gov. Are there any other resources that you use for tracking that citizens may be interested in?
That is the same one that we use, along with a resource called Telecon. There's a lot of services out there that if you're willing to spend a little bit of money, that they do the tracking for you. You put in keywords and it finds things for you. But the Texas Legislature Online, that's the best plug that you can give, along with the Sunset Commission's website, because whatever actions take place, whatever they decide to do going forward, those are things that they would keep track of the progress on those sunset bills as well. So those are the 2 places that we would recommend to go for the information.
Fantastic. Thank you. And you always do a great job explaining stuff. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. In this virtual world, there's going to be probably some challenges for the public. They haven't taken as much public testimony with the things that they've done in the past because of the COVID situation. So our public will have to be savvy. The auctioneers doing all their stuff online, I'm hopefully they're technically savvy enough that they can do the virtual, that they'll be prepared to do on-site or virtual testimony if it becomes necessary. There is quite a few phone calls that come through to customer service instead of emails. And just need to make sure if there's something that you want to be involved in the legislative session, the industry is going to need to be prepared to accommodate whatever the rules are, chamber, Senate, or House, and how they approach them. Just be prepared for that.
David,
Thank you.
Mary,
Do you know-
City Clerk. I'm sorry, Mr. Adlock. I wanted to remind everyone that we also have staff that maintains that list. Thank you, Jeff Copus. He does an amazing job with the paid service that we use in telecom. And we have those bills on our website. So this group is very familiar with our website. We do have a list, I'll call it a running list, with active links that if you push on that link, press that button, it will take you to that bill. So that's also very helpful.
Okay. Anything else? All righty, we'll move on. We'll call on Ms. Jessica Escobar, discussion and possible recommendations on proposed amendments to the existing Rule 16. Go ahead, Jessica.
Thank you. You're fine. Good morning, Chairman and members. I am going to be speaking to you about the proposed rules that were filed in the Texas Register. And the rules were related to a legislative change that was made during the 86th session. So that was 2 years ago now, but it was made during that session, which means that it was a mandatory change that required us to make changes to the rules in Chapter 57. Let me share my screen with you so you can see what those changes are. All right. So the change was Section 67.20, which is licensure requirements for auctioneers. The legislative change would remove the automatic presumption of an applicant that had a felony conviction within the 5 years prior to application from the licensure application. So we received 14 comments on the rule. All were opposed, generally saying that auctioneers are entrusted with money and property, and they were against removing this requirement. I will remind you that because this was a legislative adoption, we are required to implement that change. So another thing to point out is that even though this is here that automatically removes this provision, the Enforcement Division still has tools within Chapter 53 that allow them to review applications, and they can still review eligibility requirements based on that. They can still review felony convictions and have the opportunity to disqualify applicants based on our provisions in the Occupations Code in Chapter 53. And if you have questions, our prosecutor, Aaron Heath, can answer those for you. But these are proposed for adoption, and I recommend that you adopt the proposed rules. If you have questions, I'm available.
Didn't we adopt that? Didn't we vote on that the last meeting?
No, so what I brought to you during the last meeting was this set of rules, but it was to propose them for publication in the Texas Register so that we can open it up to the public for comment. And
Okay.
I'm bringing them back to you all to share those comments with you and ask that they be sent over to the commission for adoption.
Okay, so we need a nomination or a motion on the floor to do this?
Yes, please.
Okay. Looking for a
As-
motion?
As presented.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, also move adoption of this proposed language.
Thank you.
Amendment.
Second?
I second it.
All right. Angelica, could you give us a poll, please?
Quickly, can I get the name of who made the motion and who seconded? I didn't quite catch it.
Oh,
Holt Mixon.
And seconded by?
Justin Adcock seconded.
Justin, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Rick Stroud, presiding officer?
Yes.
Mr. Mark Trader?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas Oldmixon?
Yes.
Mr. James Beasley?
Yes.
Mr. Martin Pessink?
Yes.
And Mr. Justin Adcock?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other information? All righty, I guess we'll kind of move on. We will, I guess, wait to hear from you guys on our next board meeting. I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
So David Gonzalez, TDLR. I was remiss in doing the outreach statistics. So I'm going to have Miss Angelica share those. And, things happen for a reason. I was so enthralled with the discussion on legislative session and sunset that I skipped something that is important. This is the outreach and communication that we have with the industry. So over the past 6 months, from July through January, the Auctioneer's website had 17,470 views. That's 95 per day. 55% of those from a desktop computer, 43% from a smartphone, and 2% from a tablet. And the top reasons for visiting the site was FAQs, auctioneer schools, auctioneer law, administrative rules, and forms. The reason I say this is important is because this is our contact with the public. If y'all have any concerns, obviously y'all are part of the public. We've got a customer service division dedicated to phone calls and emails. But right now, the future of auctioneers is going to be in the hands of the legislature. We want to make sure that you understand our business is still being conducted here for the Auctioneers program as long as we have it. We've got rules to move forward with. That's why we're meeting today. If there's questions, if there's issues related to licenses, we want to solve those problems. We want to be able to issue licenses and follow up on renewals. So make sure everybody, talking to the public and to the advisory board, there's still work to be done until session comes out. So Mr. Stroud, to your point, until you hear back from us, business continues as usual. And we've got work to do. If there's enforcement actions, if there's complaints filed, we'll still be doing our business. But I just want to make sure y'all understand that we're here to serve the public and this program until we're told otherwise. And right now, there's an auctioneers program and work to be done.
Yes,
That's all I'm gonna share.
And until we are told not. Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you, David, on that. So I guess then we'll just, like last time, we just wait to decide on the next meeting and the agenda. We'll hear from the TDLR staff for that. Is that correct? Okay. So then I guess we've come to the end of the meeting. Has anybody got any last comments or questions before we ask for adjournment? Go ahead, Doug.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments and reminders. So one, thank you to Ms. Winston for pointing us to the list of bills that touch on the work that TDLR does on the main page of the website. Curiously, I could not find a link to the sunset bill in that list. It had many, many other bills, but not that particular link. That might be something worth, and just an easy way for us to follow that without actually having to go to the sunset website, except through your website. That's just a suggestion. And then thanks to Jessica Escobar for reminding us that even though this adoption of the bill or the rule change that we dealt with today was basically mandatory in the sense that the legislature had already removed that discretion from us, the agency still does have the discretion to deal with specific kinds of criminal offenses that show up on the record of individuals applying for licensure. And Mike Shirk, the last time, but of course he retired, but he promised to say something about that this time, kind of explaining the scope of what the kinds of offenses that might be taken into account in order to deny a license for an auctioneer applicant. That, you know, it's not just automatic, but the specific kinds and what that process looks like. So that might be something that if we survive this session, we might look into. Again, obviously, if we don't survive, then it becomes moot. But Thank you to the staff for keeping up the good work of keeping us all informed on what's going on and protecting the people of the great state of Texas and all the work that TDLR does. Thank you.
Mr. Olmixon, thank you so much. Mary Winston here. That is an excellent option for a future topic, and we've made note of it. Also, as soon as Sunset actually creates a bill with, they have not created the bill. They did have the meeting, and so it's not been filed. I'm not gonna say it hasn't been created, it hasn't been filed. So, but we will include that. I know that Jeff will be right on that, and that would be included in that list. So stay tuned to our website and to that list.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments at this time? It's been some good info come out. Mark.
Mark Schrader here. Mary, just going to address this to you and Helica. When is the date, forgive me, for Sunset, I guess, to put this in front of the legislature for us to know? I mean, what is the date that would be ruled upon, I guess?
So the bill, when it's drafted, we'll know more. We're just at that point of accepting certain staff recommendations from the Sunset staff. Once it's actually filed, keep an eye out, and I'll keep an eye, we all keep an eye out, and we can definitely get you that information via email when that's done. Once we see the bill, we'll know more about the time frame.
Sure. Thanks, Mary. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, so Sunset Commission has received and adopted certain recommendations from Sunset staff. Then the commission, the bill will go for it. We'll know more when we actually see the bill filed.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All righty, do I hear an motion to adjourn the meeting? Anybody?
So moved.
All righty, seconded.
Let's keep it going.
Thank you. The meeting is now adjourned. It is 10:52 a.m. 1/27/2021. Guys, thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.